All right, let's finish up today's show with another edition in our team preview series. We have Ku Khahil from Locked On Pistons to talk about the Detroit Pistons. Ku, thanks for coming through. I think there's only one place we can start with this, and I think we're going to all have the same answer to this question, and that's who's the most important player for the Detroit Pistons this upcoming season. Who's your most important player for the 2023-24 Pistons?
Obviously, Cade Cunningham. If he's the face of the franchise, former number one overall pick. The Pistons go as far or as short as he goes. Wherever he ends up, that's where they'll end up. So he's by far their most important player. Not to say there's not other guys on the team that have to be better, etc. But Cade, wherever he goes is where Detroit will go.
It's a hard thing to measure, and I know you've talked about it a lot on Locked On Pistons, and it's obvious. The dude only played a few games. I went back and watched one of them. I wouldn't say he was himself, even though I think he scored 27 in the game that I watched. It didn't feel like he was trying to get to the basket as much as I remember and what he's known for doing, and it didn't feel like he had a lot of energy or athleticism going on in the way he was playing defense either. Some of that's bad team stuff, but I think with Cade, you just expect a higher level, and I think he will get there. It's always hard to measure again with those injuries, but I guess just what does a successful season look like for Cade Cunningham this year to you? What things should he be getting better at? What things can he make better for his teammates? What's it going to look like for him to get back on the court with the new roster?
I think a successful season for Cade this year is an all-star type of season. Doesn't mean he'll make the all-star team, but because I think team record will play a big part in that. But I think he needs to be looked at as a player who is an all-star type of basketball player entering his third year, which I think he can get to. He ended his rookie season really, really strong once they finally got a lob threat with him with Marvin Bagley, who Marvin Bagley isn't even all that great of a player, but he's really good as a lob threat, really good around the basket, catches everything around the rim. And Cade really took off with that, with spacing around it. And you kind of got the idea of how to build around Cade, at least the Pistons did finally. And then entering his second season, like you said, he was dealing with that shin injury, something that he had been dealing with apparently since high school, and it just got worse his second year. Eventually got that surgery. It didn't hamper him at all this offseason with his offseason workout. I believe he was basically completely healthy, either right as the season ended or maybe a few weeks after it. So he's had his full offseason to be able to get better and get back to where he wants to be at. He was at the Team USA scrimmages and practices. He's been at a lot of pickup runs down in Florida. He went to Rico Hines runs. So I think in everything it looks like, I've talked with his brother. I've talked with his trainer. Again, like I said, he's completely healthy. They've really been working on his jump shot. His jump shot looks a lot better. He looks like he's getting more lift in his jump shot, something he just wasn't getting this past season on a lot of straight line shots. And with how well he shoots from the mid-range and how well he shoots from the free throw line, I really do think he's going to be a good three-point shooter this year. He was a great one in college, so I think he's going to be a near all-star player this year. I think that would be a great year for him.
If he had not gotten hurt, if this shin thing hadn't derailed last year, right, and he just picks up where he left off, I think towards the end of that rookie year, and had built on that, there would be we'd be talking about him, I think, more in basketball broadly, right? Like as one of the league's most promising players. I think just where things went last year, can you tell me if you feel like this is wrong? I just feel like last year, because he's out of the spotlight for so long, and the Pistons they just weren't very good. They won 17 games. He just kind of, I think people to some degree are gonna be like, oh yeah, Cade Cunningham's really good, and that's gonna be a thing we hear a lot of when we get to December. That feels very. That feels like a very likely place this is going to end up.
Yeah, I think he's been overlooked a ton, which is crazy. I talked about this in the podcast, I think, last week. And it's like every other first overall pick gets talked about a lot, whether it's good or bad. Throughout the year, whether it's, this guy was worthy of the pick, this guy was really good, or this guy's a bust. He's not living up to it. Did they make a mistake? I don't feel like you didn't get either of that Cade's rookie year. He just didn't get talked about at all. And it was kind of weird. Some Pistons fans will say it's because it's Detroit, where he went to play at. Maybe plays a lot to it. But it was weird to say he just didn't get talked about really at all. Not good or bad. He just was non-existent. And then his second year, obviously the injury really played a part in it, him not being mentioned, and then obviously the team being just awful. They were the worst team in the league last year, so obviously. But I think you're starting to see it like kind of make up for itself already this offseason. There's been a lot of, and that has to do with the fact that he showed up at Team USA and really balled out. And maybe the media kind of forgot about him, but it doesn't feel like people within NBA circles did, because he was given a Team USA invite to be on the roster. He declined.
Yeah.
So I don't think that maybe he hasn't been forgot about within NBA circles, but the NBA fan base and media, they definitely have kind of forgotten about him. But it's ramping up. I just saw Bleacher Report had him as like 10th in like the top 10 superstars for the next I think it was like next 10 years, and they have him 10th. I saw multiple other lists already from Bleacher Report over the last 2 weeks that had him like in the top 10 this and top 10 wings this year or whatever. So he's been getting talked about a lot. So I think they're making up for it a little bit. But yeah, no doubt, I think he's been weirdly covered as a first overall pick. I was actually worried when the Pistons got the first pick and they drafted him that they were going to get too much spotlight, and now everything was going to be hyper analyzed, and now he was going to be talked about nonstop, and he just
I had the shooting thing in my notes with him too, and the other thing I had, Ku, is a version of Cade to me who can create his own shot at all three levels, set up teammates consistently, defend multiple positions. Like, that's an all-star, right? And I think it's not crazy to think he can do those things. And to me, when I think about why he hasn't gotten the level of attention that maybe comes along with being a number one overall pick, I think it's not even a Pistons thing, because I think like Ja Morant and other guys have shown us no matter where you play, you're probably going to get talked about. Anthony Edwards, same thing, but he's just a quiet dude. Like, he's not out there, talking himself up. He hasn't done a JJ Redick or Paul George podcast appearance or anything like that I've seen. So, I think that helps it. But I want to talk about, you talked about him getting a roll man and getting an athletic finisher. That's where I want to go with the player we're going to be looking at this year. But I have one last question on, it'll be James
Wiseman?
But no, I have one last question on Cade, which is revolves around a person who I have some familiarity with, who was added to this team in the offseason, which is Monty Williams. We don't know what Monty's going to do, but to you, when you think about Jaden Ivey and you think about Monte Morris on this team now, is Cade should he be played full-time with the ball in his hands, or do you think there is some value to building up and exploring what he can be coming off screens, doing different things as an offensive player than what he's done in the past?
This is a heated debate in the Pistons community right now, and I'm going to fall on the side that gets the most hate for it. But I think Cade coming out of the draft was supposed to be like this versatile player. You could play him on ball, off ball. You can play him with anybody. He's that kind of cerebral player. And thus far, his shot hasn't come along. Now, if his shot comes along where he's like a great catch and shoot three-point shooter, then yeah, I guess. But I think Cade, he's best with the ball in his hands. He's best as he's supposed to be, for me, when I watch Cade, I look at him as a guy in the future who's going to be your own offense. Like, he's going to be a powerhouse offense within himself. He's a guy who can score from all three levels. He's a guy who creates shots for everyone else. And you're going to have a top 10, you're going to have a top offense just because of him, because of how good he is. Like, that's how I view him. And I know people have like this, people don't really like heliocentric offenses because they haven't won a championship. But like, every heliocentric offense I've witnessed has at least made it to the conference finals. Dallas, Houston, Trae Young a few years ago with Atlanta, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So like, I know people say you can't win anything with them, but I kind of disagree.
And he's
with
unselfish
that.
too, right? Like, I don't think he plays like those guys. So I think
Right.
he's gonna, whatever that version of it around Cade would look like, I think would be a little more balanced.
Yeah, he's unselfish, and he's a better defender than all those guys who did it. He actually is a good defender, or projects to be a good defender. He's been a little on and off as a rookie, like most rookies were. But yeah, I think he's best with the ball in his hands. But I know Monty obviously just got done coaching Chris Paul and Devin Booker as their best players. He knows how to utilize two guards and try, really put them in the best positions possible. And Cade does kind of work in the same areas as those guys did. He likes to get to his mid-range shot. He likes to get to that kind of free throw line extended area and run a lot of pick and rolls. So it would be interesting to see how he does it, or Monty, what sets he runs and what kind of offense he runs with them. I trust it because of what he did with Phoenix and the personnel he had in Phoenix, kind of being a little similar, I feel like, to what the Pistons got. But I think in the future, at some point this year, their best offense probably is just going to be spacers around Cade with Jalen Duren on the floor and just run pick and roll.
So Jalen Duren's a good transition point to go to the next question, which is the guy we're going to be talking about at the end of the year, someone to really watch. And for me, it's Jalen Duren. I adore him, Ku. He's still 19. He's really young. Had, I think, a pretty productive rookie year. He got the right size. He had the select team experience this summer. 65% on twos as a rookie without Cade there, to me, is really indicative of a guy who has natural finishing ability and isn't getting a boost from competent guard play. No disrespect to Killian Hayes and a rookie Jaden Ivey, but like that's not
Corey
feeding
Joseph? Come on, man.
a rim running big man. All right, you know what? Okay. Look, I was at a Pistons Cavs game in like March. That is maybe I felt really bad for everyone in Detroit because I'm like they just want this to be done. It's tough. It was rough. But Jalen Duren pops during all of this, and for a situation again where he had no real creators, and now he's getting back one of the best young creators in the league to throw him a bunch of lobs. To me, I can't wait to see it. And I think to me, if I'm banking on who's the second best young guy in this team behind Cade, it's him with a bullet.
Again, this is another. It's like a good heated topic though in the Pistons community, but it is like a lot of discussion around like who is the second best guy.
So a lot of James Wiseman believers, or what's Killian Hayes?
Trust me, there are a big James Wiseman base coming from Golden State, a big one. But there's a lot of talk about is it Jalen Duren or Jaden Ivey, and Jaden Ivey has a really strong fan base that if you don't like absolutely worship him, it kind of like it just they kind of go after you. But I've said. I think Jalen Duren, and I think they're both great. I love Jaden Ivey. I love Jalen Duren. But I think Jalen Duren, I do agree, is the next guy to watch for the Pistons this year. He was fantastic as a rookie. If he would have started all the games and played 30-plus minutes, and I think they maybe could have been better, I think he would have had an even better rookie season. I think that's probably one of the main reasons why you can expect the Pistons to be better this year is that he's going to get to start all the games this year. He's going to play hopefully 30-plus minutes a game instead of coming off the bench or hopefully not playing with another big and losing minutes to another big. Like, I don't think that's going to be happening this year. So, and like you mentioned, without like great creators around him his rookie year, he was fantastic around the rim, 88th percentile around the rim according to Synergy. He was like in the 73rd percentile as a pick and roll big. If he gets the ball around the rim, he's trying to dunk it every time. He's just going to jump over you. He's just going to yam it on you. He's so strong. He's 19 years old, but he looks like it's literally like mini Dwight kind of, because Dwight, he just has that kind of body where it's just like, dude, are you like 19 or 26? Like, it's crazy. But yeah, I expect big things for Jalen Duren this upcoming year, especially with Cade coming back and how Cade loves to run pick and rolls with lob threats. And that's not even bringing up the fact that Jalen Duren has some ball skills too. Great passer for a big man. The area that he has to improve the most on is defensive consistently and really finding out what scheme defensively is best for him. They tested it a lot this past year with switching and showing high and drop coverage. They were trying to see how versatile he was, and we never really got. I think it's probably drop coverage will be his best, but we don't really know what scheme they're going to run with him defensively. So I think that's where he's going to have to really improve at. He showed some flashes of rim protector, but wasn't consistent enough as a rookie. You say that a lot about rookies, though. So I think that's where he's going to have to improve the most at. But yeah, he's definitely number 2 for me. With Jaden Ivey.
Yeah, you hit on all the stuff that I wanted to touch on with Duren, and I'll tell you right now, they're going to play drop. Monty Williams is going to put him in the paint and say, learn how to read what is in front of you, how to protect the rim, get your timing down, get your processing down, and just take away the basket. And I think he can do that. I think, to me, having watched how DeAndre Ayton was treated in Phoenix, like, I think physically Duren's more gifted than Ayton, at least like athletically and just with his strength and overall force. Ayton has maybe some more skill to his game, but I think Duren should be able to excel in the role that he's going to be given. I just hope very much that we get to see him tap into some of what was not there, what Ayton was not allowed to do. And I think what's going to happen is that Duren's going to have to commit to those little things and treat it seriously and improve pretty rapidly in order to be kind of given the freedom. And it's not going to happen all in 1 year, of course, but to be given the freedom to try to create offense, to switch onto the perimeter more, to do some of the things that are going to get him to his ceiling. But yeah, I mean, he's a super fun player. He just jumps off the screen with how athletic he is. Is he in your best lineup, Chris?
So move on to best lineup. He is in my best lineup, and I think for this is again something where you can answer it in different ways and have some fun with it. For this one, I go Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, Joe Harris, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Jalen Duren. 3 young guys. You get your lead creator Ivy gets to secondary create. You get 2+ shooters on the floor and a roll big. I think particularly my interest in this lineup and why I think it can really work is I think it kind of just fits in terms of roles and it's pretty traditional. Like I think it just kind of clicks together. And secondly, I think it kind of really empowers Jaden Ivey in an interesting way, both attacking as a scorer and I think to be a secondary creator and not have to do everything in that lineup.
You got one, Ku, or you need a few more minutes?
No,
Okay.
I have 2 lineups, if that's okay, that I think will be really, really good. The first one is a sneaky one. I don't think people really, I think a lot of people really think about outside Detroit. I got Cade, Ivy, Bojan, Isaiah Livers, and Jalen Duren. I think and you'll see this in the second lineup that I bring that I think could potentially be better, but it's a little bit more of a hot take. But that one right there, it provides. I think one of the things the Pistons really struggled at this past season. That I thought they had the worst wing room in the entire NBA. I thought it was by far their biggest weakness for like why they were so bad is their wings. A lot of noise was made about their guards and their guard play, but their wings were really the biggest reason why they were so bad. They couldn't guard anybody. So and Bojan's not going to get better at that. So they need a guy on the floor that can play defense, but also can kind of spread the floor offensively, and that's what Isaiah Livers can do. He's a really good defender, really good team defender, probably their best team defender when it comes to knowing where to be, rotations, talking, all that stuff. Sneaky athlete. And a good shooter as well. He's not going to do things that he can't do. He's not going to try to do things he can't do. He knows his role, and he's going to shoot threes. He's going to play defense. So I think that right there could be a really good lineup. It has a good blend of spacing, and you try to make up for Bojan's defense the best you can. I also have really big concerns that we'll see how well you can actually play Ivy and Bojan on the floor together this upcoming season. Because this past season, I looked it up. I believe they were the second worst duo for the Pistons. Like they were giving up 123 points per 100 possessions. Like them both defensively they're rough. But it's like you can't. It's going to be tough to not play both of them because they're your better players. So it's like how can you make a lineup around them? So I got Livers to try to balance out some defense. But my second lineup that I think could be really good, and by the end of the season could be their best lineup. Is Cade, Ivy, Asar, Livers, and Duren. Because Asar brings that balance of defense. He brings some things offensively that isn't shooting, but playmaking, secondary playmaking, high IQ on cuts. Overall, I think he's a little versatile offensively. He's going to be creative how you have to use him. But then also defensively, he can really guard the best team's offensive player. He can get out in transition, lead the break, make the right play out of that. And you have that outside shooting with it. In Livers and Ivy. Ivy was a really good catch and shoot 3-point shooter this past year, using like the 88th percentile and open catch and shoot threes. So you have that spacing around Cade still. You have some playmaking, multiple ball handlers if you need, and Cade, Ivy, and Asar. And on defense, you don't have any. Outside Ivy, you won't have any guys that can just be attacked. Cade will be a good defender. Asar is going to be a good defender, I think, instantly. Livers is a good defender, and Duren is going to be a good defender. Hopefully, that's what he projects to be. So you have a good balance of defense, good balance of offense. You let Cade really take you somewhere offensively. I think that could end up being their best lineup by the end.
I love it. I watched the Pistons for whatever reason, happened to catch them live when I went to visit a buddy in New York, and we went to a Knicks game. They were playing Detroit. He's from Detroit, or he has family from Michigan, so we watched it. Livers popped completely in person in a way. Like, do you know how just guys, you go to the arena or you just sit down for a game and you're like, okay, he physically, processing-wise, he just looks like he belongs, and probably too deep a cut for us to have as like the guy we're watching over Jalen Duren, but he could look like a rotation player. I think Monty will like him. But my best lineup for the Detroit Pistons this season, Monte Morris, I think, can defend at the point of attack, can be an initiator, can run Monty Williams, pick and roll, 0.5 offense. I think they will play Cade Cunningham off ball more than maybe people are expecting, so he's my 2 in the lineup. I have Asar Thompson here. I think, to your point, he will be impactful in ways that by the end of the season, I think statistically will start to show up, creating turnovers, making other players better, creating open threes, the Ben Simmons effect type of thing for his teammates as a passer. I do have Bojan Bogdanovic in this lineup still. Shot creation, plays hard on defense even if he's older and not a great athlete, can be a good helper, can get in the right positions, make threes, end of clock scoring, the stuff that you need. And then Jalen Duren, I think, they just need size. They don't have a lot of other lineups that are going to have an athletic rim protector, a finisher, a roll threat for Morris, for Cade. So even if he's young, even if he takes some lumps, even if it takes him a while to be a positive player, I think he'll be their best option at center this year. So that's my 5. Do you think Asar will play?
I'm a boomer.
Wait,
is what I've learned. I'm a boomer because I just was like, give me the 2 old guys who don't move but can shoot to give me space.
I mean, we all have
literally
Boyan
my
in there.
only
It's just a
thought.
matter
I was
of
like,
who's
I
gonna
want
be at the 3.
functionality.
I think Joe Harris
Yeah,
is
but
just.
But I
might
was
be
like,
cooked. I don't
give me
know. Yeah.
washed. Yeah.
And Joe Harris will be interesting. I don't know if he's even going to be in the rotation. I've talked with some of the beat writers, and we've talked about it. They acquired him, and it was a fine. Like, you didn't give up anything for him. You kind of just let him absorb your cap space. Which, like, okay, so he's going to be battling for minutes with Asar. Asar's going to be playing. And is he better than Livers at this point? I don't know if he's going. Livers, I really like Livers, and I think the team really
he's
likes
good.
him too. So it's like it's going to be hard. His shooting is so valuable that it's like you need him on the floor because the Pistons need shooting. But then it's also like, okay, who's he going to play over? So it's going to be. They have a deep team theoretically, so it'll be interesting to see how Monty goes about
I just hope
rotation.
Asar plays. And judging from the marry my daughter comments at Summer League and everything, I feel like he will. But, an old-fashioned coach with a toolsy but kind of not mistake-prone, but, shot-making, miss-prone, I guess you could say, at times, guy. If the impetus is to take a step forward this season, you're trying to raise the floor. I don't know. It might take him at least a few months to break through the rotation is what it feels like to me. What do you think, Ku?
If Asar was not to be in the rotation instantly, I would be not only angry, but very shocked. Because I think while he struggles as an outside shooter right now, the things that he does already good, the things he has as raw skill sets are exactly what the Pistons were so awful at last year. Just having a wing who is athletic. Like that right there is already like sometimes just being an athlete on the wings can help a team. And the Pistons has had 0 of it. That's 1. 2, defensively, being an athlete, like he's not just a good athlete. He's probably like a top 5th percentile athlete in the league now. Him and his brother are just crazy athletes. Then defensively, the Pistons were the worst wing defense, I think, in the league last year. They need that desperately. What he can do in transition and create for himself and others. I just think that there's going to be lumps for sure with him in the half-court offense and being creative with how to use him while he figures out his outside shot. Like, you can't just plant him in the corner and say, here you go, shoot corner threes. Like, that would be a mistake. So you have to be a little bit creative with it. But I just find it hard. It's going to be tough for me to see how Asar doesn't earn himself. Like, I don't think he's just going to be given minutes. I think he's going to earn minutes. I can't see how he doesn't outplay guys in training camp because of the things he already does well, and that being something the Pistons desperately need. And he is young. They could go with veterans over him, but I can't see him not outplaying these guys in training camp.
There's also just no point in like doing this unless you're going to play your young guys. Like, you're not at a point where like you can push them away, I don't think. 2 things we got to run through very quickly here because Ku, I know you have a hard out here. Best case scenario for me, this is very simple. I don't really care so much about a ton of wins. I think I care that the floor gets raised and that Cade picks up where he left off and that Thompson gets acclimated well enough in year 1 and Duren takes steps forward and you kind of understand more of what we have with Ivy. You could win 26 games and be like another high lottery pick coming, and I don't care if a couple things really do click into place. I don't think it matters that much if you're going to.
Yeah, it was pretty similar. I had the young players shoot and defend well enough to raise the team's floor as they continue developing. Pretty straightforward. We didn't talk a lot about Ivy, but I think he fits right into that.
I think
we've kind of we don't have time, but he's the kind of guy I was thinking of. What do you have for best case, Ku?
I think best case scenario they win 32 games or not best case scenario is like the absolute ceiling. Maybe they make the play-in at the 10th seed. I think they're probably going to be at 32 wins, but I think best case scenario, some teams in front of them in the East fall out. Chicago blows it up. Toronto blows it up. Washington tanks. That's 3 teams right there. They just need 4 teams, and now they're competing with another team there. So I think that's their best case scenario. I don't think it's likely they can do it though.
Worst case, I think all there is for me with worst case is does no one else but Cade pop? Does Duren regress? Does Ivy not take a step forward? Does Thompson just lost? Does this investment in competency with Monty Williams not result in competency in some way, and then you're just kind of left like wondering what you have besides Cade. I don't think that's going to happen here. I like a lot of these young guys enough, but if you don't feel clarity about some of these other young guys after this year, I think I would. If I'm the Pistons, if I'm that fan base, I'm probably.
Yeah, I had
bit
it
frustrated.
as another point to add to what you're saying. The vets struggle with injuries. If Boyan, if Harris, if Morris isn't really on that list, but those two specifically, Alec Burks struggle with injuries, and then Asar and Duran are still a year away. They're just going to be pretty bad in that case. They struggled with some of those same things last year, so not crazy to think it could happen again. What's your worst case, Ku?
I think all that is completely fair, but my worst case is Cade just doesn't turn out to be the guy. Like that would be that
That's
would just
brutal
end
in
everything.
only
It
a
would
way
be-
a fan
it-
could
like
could even think. Like we're just kind of like, okay, what about this stuff on the fringe? And you're like, what if it all blows to shit?
yeah, like if Cade doesn't take that step forward that everyone's expecting, then you have serious problems. Like I don't think it's going to happen. I think Cade's going to be a future superstar. I think Cade's him.
Yeah,
But
it is.
that is the worst case scenario. Like if Cade comes back, the injury, he doesn't completely come back from it, and he's not like who we think he is. Then it's just like,
Yeah.
where do we go now? Like what's the plan here?
Ku had over.
Yeah. And on this over. He has talked me into the over. Here's why. I think there are some other really sucky teams in the East, and I think it's like 29. I had under, like a slight under in my original notes, but I think like 29, 30 wins, considering there are some really stinky teams in the East that they're going to play a bunch against, that I think that they maybe just get there by proxy and
Can I
hook or
give
by crook.
Can I give an argument to try for everyone listening for the over? Can I just give a quick
Yeah.
argument?
Yeah.
The quick argument I give is that I don't view last year's team as actually a 17-win team. I think if you're just projecting 15 wins onto the worst team, that would be psychotic. I think that would just be crazy to do. I would never do that. But I think if Cade's healthy last year, they're probably like a 22, 23-win team, and then 9-game jump is not as crazy to look at. I think if Cade plays all year, Bojan plays, and they don't tank the last 2 months of the year because Cade's healthy and playing, if those guys actually play, are they a good team? No. But are they like 17 wins? No. They're not. They'd be like 23-win team. So I think a 9-win jump for them would be possible with Cade coming back. But yeah, if you thought that they were like actually a 17-win team last year, 15-win jump for a team that didn't really do
So
much,
to your
that would be
point, they
crazy.
were statistically a 21-win team last year. If you look at, Cleaning the Glass has that, and they just calculate it out by like point differential and whatever, that gives you a little bit. And then the other point, the Suns hit way over. I look back. They were at 29.5 over under preseason in Monty's first year. Obviously, they went a little further, adding veteran talent, Ricky Rubio, Aaron Baines, guys who are like starter caliber who were able to step in, but they hit way over that, like 5-6 wins over that. Obviously, the bubble and everything made it kind of weird. I don't even know how that stuff cashed or didn't in that season, but they hit the over by quite a bit. So he does have that reputation of giving that bounce. They were better than they seemed last year, but I'm still going under. I just don't think they added quite enough veteran talent to raise the floor enough. I think they'll be better than last year, but not quite enough to get to 29-30 wins.